Mothers on the Move is actually suing NYAFCA, which is the New York Organic Fertilizer Company. And don't be fooled by the fact that it says organic. There's nothing organic about this. What they do is that they take 70% of the sewage biosolids from New York City, and they treat it, they dehydrate it, and they turn it into pellets. And then they send them across the country. For whatever reason, they can't actually be used in the state, which probably speaks to how safe these pellets are. They use them as fertilizer. Human waste is a chemical process that's been deemed safe, and then they use it on crops and produce that probably comes right back into the community on during those 16,000 truck trips. And when you burn something like that, when you incinerate it and you do that, it gives off this horrible, horrible smell. This community has been living with that smell for 15 years. Mothers on the Move, in the span of a year and a half, was able to finally get them to the table to talk about some real ways in which they can change this. They were able to get the DEC, the State Department, which doesn't have a lot of teeth in terms of, it just regulates, it can't legislate. So whatever the laws are, that's what they regulate. But they cannot create new laws. It has to go to state legislature, right? It's a very draconian way of thinking about environmental justice and environmental issues, and that's probably one of the reasons why environmental issues in this country are not as progressive as they need to be, because you have all these bureaucrats who have all of these other hidden agendas tied to them. And there's a lot of money that's made off of these very horrible ways of doing business and treating our earth. We've taken a very territorial approach to the way that we treat the planet. And that's reflected in the way that the laws are written on the books, and the fact that community, people like you and I, tons of people, realize that we need to be much more sustainable, and there are all of these obstacles that prevent that do drive up overhead so that it's not affordable to some communities without some sort of government subsidy or abatement. And in a year and a half, they were able to get the DEC to talk about doing some sort of specialized permit in order to stop the smells that are coming into the community. And so they really show that if you're very creative, if you take action, and then you work with other groups that are similarly aligned, there can be movement that is made. It may not be all of what we want as fast as we want it, but it definitely is very significant. And then there's the last piece, which is just my future sort of in the social justice movement, where I'd like to see myself later. All of this gears me up to hopefully be at a point where I'm like Matt, and I can, have an office in Providence and San Francisco and all this shishi stuff that I'm not doing yet. But right now I'm a company of one with my trusty laptop, and I maintain several blogs. I have the T-shirt line, and I do these these events that have a social cause. And I'm the kind of person that you probably want to go out drinking with. That's really the way I frame my company. How do we get people around a great meal or dancing or whatever to talk about these issues and then create movement that way? Because I find that that's when people are the most receptive. But that, too, has to be done in conjunction with organizations like Mothers on the Move and Sustainable South Bronx. And as I go forward and do these yoga classes and do these fashion events, I've continually find myself surrounded by organizers as the sort of unofficial volunteers and employees that help me to actually bring that forth, and tapping into that as these organizations volunteering to be my fiscal sponsors to get grants that I would not be able to get otherwise as a non-for-profit. And so one of the things that I'm thinking about as well is, as I go forward, Black Girl was actually thought of as to be a paper magazine, and we did our first pilot, but we actually did it as thinking about the enormous amount of waste that goes into a magazine, and the fact that most magazines fail in the first 5 years because they just cannot keep up the ad revenue to keep them going. I actually did a pilot a year ago with Black Girl as an internet magazine, very interactive, where you can actually, I can't hook my laptop in to show you, where you can actually flip the pages by clicking the button, that type of thing. And thinking about, I had folks around me who were, graphic designers and designers who really helped me to tweak it so that it was functional and easy to use and things of that nature. And then thinking about how to tie entertainment to social causes without getting so lost in the entertainment that we lose fact of what we're actually there for. And I think that I've sort of found the balance in between that. And people become receptive, and I've found that in the last 2 years, I've actually had more reception to what I've been doing than I can physically accommodate because I'm only one person. And at some point, my children do want to see me before they go to bed. So these are the things that I've been working on. These are the types of things that I think are very important as we go forward and we think about sustainability and how it relates to communities that otherwise would be locked out of that conversation.